Well, we have to break that African National Congress Secretary General Mantashe is briefing the media at Letuli House.
So we'll target those first. But already we're starting tomorrow. Tomorrow will be in Mantashe. Because there are 3 wards there that are complaining, what 11, what 25, what 15. We want them to engage us so that we finish these issues and settle them. One of the problems that is unique, quite interesting for us, is that there is a growing number of people who says, I must be the councillor, you can't change my name, and almost go to war for him to be a councillor. That is a strange development that we must begin to develop an approach to it. Secondly, it's an area where groups, people work in groups. There was a group yesterday that convened a meeting and that's when they will migrate to any of the opposition parties. Those are pressure tactics that we must deal with every day. We're dealing with them, but the reality of the matter is that in the wards, we can't change. When we have discovered that number 1 on the list of a ward has been changed, we have actually reinstated the number 1 on the list. If you go through the cracks, it will be unfortunate, but where we discover, we have evidence that in the PGM, in the community meeting, you became number 1, but you arrive here as number 2. And we check the source documents. We put you back to number 1 because people who are popular in the wards must remain number 1 in the wards. There are areas where people complain. Where we don't accept is when a person phones and said, in our ward, so-and-so was number 1, please change him. We can't work on the basis of individuals who phone us directly because they happen to have our numbers. That is where we are with the list process. And we're dealing with all the problems that are facing us. But we think that it's quite an interesting process, quite educational, quite enriching, and also painful in the sense that others really take up on us. And if I can borrow you my cell phones, I have 2 of them, for 3 hours, and say, read every message that comes. You will know that actually it's a pity that it's lucky that I have not collapsed and this has been required to conduct a mouth-to-mouth respiration with me to revive me. Because people really go to the extreme. Yeah. One this morning, Zizi, was expelling me from the Communist Party because he's not happy with a particular list and said your membership is reviewed, you know. But this person is not the general secretary of the party, is not any of the officials of the party or member of the CC. But he's so aggrieved that he said your membership is being reviewed. I had to tell him, no, but it's not negotiable. My membership to the party is not negotiable. You know, that's how far people go. You will know by now that in Alfred Nzo, the district of the party has registered as a party that will contest elections as such. The party can deal with that. It's not our business. If they want to go and contest election, Alfred, so we'll meet them in the ballot box. But it's a strange position because that position was raised in the party conference in 2007, defeated. It was raised in the recent midterm congress of the party, defeated. But I think diehards want to test it. If it works well for them, it may be an issue that becomes a very hot debate in the party. I don't think the ANC is expected to deal with that issue. It's a party internal issue because we're allies, we've agreed to go together to the elections. If one district go and register in the name of the Communist Party, it is the Communist Party that must deal with that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ST. I would assume that there are a few questions, but except to say ST, which is something I don't usually do.
No, I'm not.
No, it's fine. We'll take one, and there are only 3. Part of what you're dealing with outside is corrections we had to make in the process. For an example, there will be an area where precisely the issues that ST is raising, an area where we could pick up on the list that, look, the voting is either was done just on the basis of blocks or slates. So in a manner that tempers with what the SG says. It tempers with the outcome of a branch. So you get to the regional list, all what was number one from all those processes is nowhere to be seen. And that's what part of his responsibility and the team was to correct that. Because if the ANC can't correct those mistakes and adhere to principles and guidelines, then we must forget. And I think that issue is quite important for the ANC. I must say that the most painful one, which is largely the issue outside, adherence to issues of retention and gender. You know, the 10% sometimes it comes from branches as the 10% is just all males. And in terms of our guidelines, you can't tamper with those males. But what then comes after that, you must compensate that discrepancy in terms of gender. So if there was a man who was immediate number one after 10%, he then becomes number 20 or something 50 on the list. Because you must then put up more women to compensate what you did. You could not interfere with 10%. Majority of cases are there. Detaining sending number 25 because we have to take him down in order to meet the requirements of the guidelines. But like the HE says, we have a program post this because some of the issues have nothing to do with the list process. Some of the issues of discipline and so on, we'll continue to engage with them, go to branches to discuss and engage them politically. Let me take a few questions. Cindy, I won't give you a question because you'll have your own time to talk to the SG as per your request. Hajra, Andrew, Sphere, and yourself, my favorite Genevieve. SG, by the way, can't pronounce your name. SG can't pronounce your name. Jane. Yeah, Jane. Just call her Jane.
Jane is now from business sector.
No, I know. She's our new Mantashe.
Good afternoon, SG. Hello, Margie from Power. Listening to my colleague Zini Media's reports earlier on some of the complaints from outside, people were complaining about being left off, and you've explained that in terms of the gender rule. But they also complained that they were left off because of the capacity rule, the 60% rule, where you have to bring people back. And what they were saying is that they were left off for a counsellor in the cases some of the people she interviewed that didn't do well as counsellors in that community. So has there been an audit, in terms of the 60% rule of capacity, has there been an audit of how well those counsellors have actually done before you bring them back? And then in terms of what Zizi said on slate politics and how you're finding that sometimes the slate is there and some of the people outside may be victims, how bad is that situation? Which are the best and worst performing officers?
Our SG is not going to answer and sit down. All the people I've noted, after answering your question, you'll come after that whilst SG is standing here.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I don't need you really. Hajra, we don't tamper with words, okay, even for 60% continuity. So anybody who says he was tampered with from a ward because wanted to meet the 60% continuity is not telling the truth. We only deal with the changes at the level of proportional representation, which is what we use even to adjust gender imbalance, youth underrepresentation. We use more our proportional representation list, because list as follows. If you go to a particular municipality, you find out that it's 125 is a major metro, 125 seats, 125 proportionate. So we have quite a big leeway in the proportionate representation to adjust for whatever. Thirdly, which is very rare, it's in rare occasion, the PC in the guidelines is given space to use up to 15% of intervening to balance the list. Let's say, for example, it is not balanced in terms of demographics or geographic spread. It can use the 15%, or political intervention where there has been quite an aggressive attempt to remove a performing mayor, for example. The PC is given a right in the rules to say intervene, but never intervene beyond 15%, the overall impact of that intervention. So if people say slate counts in terms of the voting in blocks. Some of the people here can be victims. Others as well can be perpetrators. Because they may be here because they want their own slate to have a candidate who wins. So it cuts both ways. Ours is not to try and appease a particular slate, is to look into the merits of the case. In the selection of candidates, Hajra, we have the BGM of the ANC. It's not the final arbiter. We take people to the community express views about those 4 candidates. The screening committee monitor them from the BGM to the committee meeting and then make recommendations to the regional list committee. And then a candidate gets selected. What is a new tendency though? Is this thing of going to war to be a councillor, where you pass people to the head office of the ANC because there must be visible support for you to be a councillor. And this doesn't reflect the support that we want. If you have support, you must have that support in the community meeting, in your ward, not in front of Lutuli House. That's not what we take into account. So we'll deal with these problems. They are being listened to in groups to hear them out. Yesterday, there were about 5,000 here. We dealt with them. By the time I left here in the evening, they were left about 200. Because we have teams that listen to them, pay attention to them. If there is weight in the issue, we address that issue and actually respond to it.